I'd like to think, 11 years today, you're finishing up your body pump initial training. What do you think that version of Steven would be surprised to hear from the person that's sitting here right now?
The biggest surprise would have been that stint in career that I had within Les Mills before the pandemic hit, becoming a presenter. I would have never even imagined that happening ever. I never anticipated broadening my scope like that. So yeah, I just wouldn't have believed you if you said you're going to be doing CrossFit and you're going to be doing this and you're going to be a presenter. I would have not believed it.
It's wild to think, isn't it?
Yeah.
I sit with you right there in the same thing. I think back to going to your classes at that time, like body pump and attack and like not being able to really do push-ups and like, oh my God, grit strength too. And like that weird warehouse. Apart from thinking I was going to get murdered in some dark carpet factory, but, doing so much like core work and hovers and like plyo, it was a lot. And being able to like see, like look back on your journey sometimes is really exciting, and knowing that it's part skill, it's part talent, and also just like your internal drive, like what is driving you and your why behind that. And it doesn't surprise me that you made it there, but I can imagine from 17-year-old Steven like, hi guys, that you would be like on a huge platform in that way.
Yeah, I never expected to be from a young age. I was very introverted as a kid versus later teen years. People always saw me as kind of the life of the party, and that persona, I think, came out of me from fitness because I found some confidence within myself from that. So yeah, I would have never believed it.
I think that's interesting about what you mentioned about being, an introvert. I think that's something so many of us share, because I'm the same way. It's like I'm, outside of like the fitness instructor persona and character, sometimes it's not like we're 100% on in that way all the time, or like, in that zone. But there is something about you that is that X factor, and kind of you're a natural connector. You sent me your initial training form yesterday, and I was reading that. And that was something that had the largest amount of feedback, was about how natural of a connector you were. So obviously it's something that hasn't changed over the course of 11 years from your childhood and so forth. But what do you think about that when you look at like your classes? Because it's undeniable that you have this cult-like following. You have people that follow you from gym to gym. You have like a posse. Like, I mean, like someone can say like, oh, they're one of Steven's in the Raleigh-Durham area. And they're like, oh, they go to Steven's classes. Like they get it. What is it about your personality that you think creates this community and cult-like following for your fitness?
I know that I have a lot of connections with people and friends in the community, but it's just feels weird hearing that. Like, but I do make an impression on people. Like I can confidently say that. I think it started when I was a kid. I actually enjoyed talking to adults more than I enjoyed talking to people my own age. I would talk to the teachers in school. When I was with family gatherings, I would play with my cousins, but I would sit at the adult table and listen. I think it carried me when I into my teen years, because I was really good at having conversations with people. And because I'm passionate about fitness and I'm an empath by nature, just I genuinely care about people. I don't have to really try that hard to connect. I guess it's coming from a place of care and authenticity with me. And so I guess people can feel that maybe when I'm speaking with them, or when I'm teaching a class. I don't have to pretend to be that facilitator. It just kind of comes natural to me, and I want everybody to feel seen, appreciated, loved.
You're a great example of that in connection too, of being someone that has those skills and then going through more formal learning like group fitness and personal training, like to understand like I'm sure you relate to this too. When like we read about connection and like in a book or something, it
Yeah.
feels almost like I feel like am I wasting my time reading about this? Because it's just like sometimes I'll look and be like, this is stuff I already do, but putting a name to it, it is a great way to ease in and remember like, okay, so maybe there's a natural talent here. And this goes for anyone listening and a skill of you're good at something, you learn about that in a more formal way and put names to the things that you do, then you can use those tools and talents more intentionally. And I think you've got a really good handle on how you drive connection in your classes. And I see it particularly in like the ways that you coach people when there's something wrong that you see, or like how you treat that with empathy and even boundaries of like, when not to go too far into the connection of like, I gotta go. I can't talk to this person for 60 minutes because it will turn into a therapy session. But you still handle, you, you still handle that with grace. Is there one thing about connection, if someone really struggles with it and they've done initial training, they've done like reading books about stuff, like from your real life experience, is there anything you can suggest to them to foster better connection?
I think you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. Naturally, for me, I can do that. A lot of people, that's just not who they are naturally, to empathize with somebody. And fitness is such an important industry to have empathy. I think it gets forgotten. But no, you don't know somebody's story, but when they're looking at you or they're talking to you, if you can, learn a little something about them, and just for a second, that 10-second conversation, put yourself in their perspective. If it's their first class, maybe you already know a lot about them, so it's easy to do it. But if it's somebody you haven't met, giving them eye contact, hearing their name, asking them a question, and just thinking like they might be starting this for the first time and just trying to put yourself in their shoes, I think will help someone authentically connect with their audience.
In the name of fitness, change is something that's really synonymous with it. What do you think has changed so much since you started 11 years ago versus the things that may have stayed the same in your work?
That fitness has a look. I think that has changed because we've shifted away from the vain side of fitness, and we've shifted into the wellness side of fitness. Wellness encompassing mental health, spiritual, physical, you name it. So I think it's changed for the better. There's been little pockets where it changes and then we have a weird little fad and then it changes again. What I'm noticing now, and you can probably relate, is that especially post 2020 era, the after, as Amanda Singletary says, we're finding that we do fitness really for more than just to have abs and biceps. Okay, like there's more to it. I appreciate that the industry is recognizing that, and that we're able to holistically take different approaches, classes, training styles, and help people on a broader scale. We can help more people because we understand that there's more to it than looks.
Yes, I love that wellness is becoming part of the fitness conversation in a ways that you see fitness and wellness, fitness and well-being as two things that are together because they work, they're symbiotic with each other. At least the fitness side, the group fitness side of it, helps you be something even bigger than yourself or feel connected to something bigger than yourself. Because knowing you from middle school, like up into like high school, like the first time I saw you teach was actually in our Spanish class. You taught a little bit of a body attack track in Spanish, and I remember our class was like super captivated by it. And our teacher, Miss Stewart, what's up? ¿Qué pasa? she was super amazed by it. And it was cool to see like, oh, like, until that point, I was like, well, Steven's just really quiet and we just look at each other occasionally and never talk to each other. I was so intimidated by you, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. Next interview about intimidation.
About my intimidation and young sexuality.
I wouldn't, speak to a person new to fitness and scare them with, this is going to change your whole life and you're going to be a whole different person. Like, that's what it had on me, because I think ultimately, like, this is part of my purpose, my why. It can, enhance all aspects of your life. And it's more than just fitness, especially in the group fitness space. And I'm talking CrossFit, Orange Theory, Power, whatever you do in a group setting. It's social. My wife Anna and I talk about this a lot, about how when we were younger, we used to really obsess over the physical things. We're like, I want my arms bigger, I want abs. It was vain. It was very vain. And now we without even realizing it, as we've gotten older, 10 years later, we're realizing we're going to the gym at CrossFit. Well, we enjoy getting fitter, yeah, but we have a group of friends there. We have a community there. It's the time to unwind. And shout out CrossFit Shoe Fly. But it's so much bigger than just the physical aspect.
And that's a great point too, of like the start to fitness or doing stuff isn't to do, things that you and I have done, but like to just feel better.
Yeah.
In a really wild world. For those of us that do, especially you, dear listener, who probably is in the fitness industry as a instructor or someone working in it, we know that it can be quite cutthroat because it is a very emotional business. There's so many conditions and gyms around our country, around the world, where professionals are underpaid, undervalued. We encounter bullying from colleagues, even from superiors, and sometimes just downright cruelty. I think there's space to have a soft soul too, and to have feeling and emotion. How has it that you moved forward in this type of work without giving up and staying within your longevity despite challenges or hate, cruelty from other people?
The connection, the people, the core of people haven't really changed. The need for human connection. I think that if you're in this industry, Lizzie Troutman, you told me this, if you ever listen to this, staying true to your why, knowing why you want to be in this fitness industry. Because it's easy, fire sign energy, to want to have popularity platform. Now we have influencers, but like 10 years ago, it was like getting on stage, right? If you're doing it for vain reasons, it's going to come out in your classes. People can pick up on that energy. But staying true to your why and really being in the fitness industry for what it is, to make people fit, to improve their well-being, helps keep you on course no matter what the little distractions are outside of it.
Yeah, and that's hard to know as a newer instructor too, because I think for us, like, when you do start, you're like, oh, there is this kind of rush of like, oh, people are listening to what I say, and like, this is fun to like lead the experience and like create something. And depending on where you start, like sometimes you may start with a class that has 60 people coming to it regularly and they just keep coming, and and then there's other times where you may start like very similar to me. Like my first class, no joke, 6 months, 2 or 3 people, like it, and I love those people, and it's me being freshly 18, like teaching a 2 p.m. Sunday body attack. Well, you know what I mean? Like, it's wild to think that, you think from that point, you're like, okay, well, it's going to get better from here, but better is going to be more of that feeling of, am I living towards my why? Am I living towards helping who is in front of me versus that objective number or fame or whatever? Because for y'all listening, like Steven and I still teach together. And there have been times where he and I have taught 60 people. There have been times, many, probably more times, that you and I have taught 2 or 4 people. Yeah. And it's like a one-on-one kind of situation with like the people. It's funny to think about it, because it's like, oh, well, I've done all this stuff. I've like met all these certifications, these accolades, but here I am still teaching 4 people. Yeah. It's that shift of the mindset of saying like, yeah, like I'm teaching these 4 people, and how cool is it to like still be able to show up and and bring the same fun and the energy and just be who we are. Because honestly, at this point in our careers, I imagine you can feel the same. Is like sometimes it is those tinier classes that are the best ones because you get to try new stuff and not worry about
The energy of a room with 60 people is off the charts. It's fun. It's exciting. There's like a adrenaline rush from our end. Staying true to the why. You got a small class. It's not as fun. They might be newer to the format or the modality that you're teaching, but you're able to really connect with them or make them feel seen or coach them. And it's just as important, if not more so, to create those small touch points. Sure, it's exciting to have a room packed. We can't forget about the lower hanging fruit, the smaller group.
we've talked a lot about groups and we've talked about kind of classes and such, but there's so much power in individuals and stories. And I feel really blessed, and I know you do too, of like people we've got to have in our classes for this whole time that we've taught, 5+ years. Is there a specific person or a specific story that really sticks with you to this day?
There's honestly, and I know you can relate to this, there's so many. It's really hard to pick one.
Miss Barbara's, Miss Alma's, there's so many.
There's just so many. I think seeing someone cower into class, they're shy, they stay in the back, they're introverted. When I meet these people that are maybe newer to the format, they're, again, naturally shy. It takes me back to when I was first starting and I was that person, and to what I am now. And I've seen many, I have a lot of stories of people that started as, I say, the back row shy participant or client, that 6 months later, they are middle or front of the room. They're talking to people around them. They've cultivated a whole group of new friends. They're excited to come to the gym. It started as a box to check. Now it's turned into it's the best hour of their day. It started as they dreaded coming to have to work out, to they can't wait to get off work to come. And I think seeing someone get empowered through my fitness classes, it like gives me goosebumps. It's like there's no better feeling.
And I know your participants so value that time with you, no doubt, whether it's their second or third time dragging back in, or I would love like a statistics of like some of the people that have been coming to your classes for like 11 years. Like how many Stevens classes have they attended? That would be so cool to see.
Yeah, that would be, I wish we had like a way to track that or something.
I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge it. I think one thing that probably we weren't very prepared for is just the amount of people we would lose to us career. I think I've never really thought about it much until the last few years, but we work with people up until like, their 70s and 80s sometimes, all the way down to teenage years. And so, of course, just how life goes, like we do see the departure of people that we form really good relationships with. And one of those, especially this week, and it's hard to process. And I'm getting to that point in my life where like I've lost students, I've lost group fitness participants.
Right.
Like, are there ways that you continue to honor those people or move through the grief of like losing someone that you spend so much time with on a weekly basis?
It points back to the importance of why we do this to begin with. It's more than just a class. When you see people 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week for years, you become connected to them. Yes, they're acquaintances. Maybe they're not your best friend, but they're like family. It's almost like your own little family, and you care about them. Especially after this week, a participant that I hadn't seen in a while, and her tragically passing away. It broke my heart, one, but two, hearing from some of the friends that she made, even in the last year at her new gym, and the connections that she made because of group fitness. Those friends, I went to one of her services this past week, and she had shared, and they actually knew who I was because she had talked about me to them. And it really touched my heart because I haven't seen her in a while. But it just goes to show that the imprints we make through these classes or experiences go as deep as, someone talks to other people about you, or, and so she had just a huge, group of friends, a lot of them from the gym. It's important that we stay connected to our people and have those, caring conversations and create an environment that's a community-centered environment so that people can come in and yeah, they can, even if they're introverted, they might find their place within it and feel like they belong.
And dare I say, dear Kyle, ripples.
Ripples. Yeah. Ripples.
I can't even do the Scottish accent. Ripples. Like, curious, being so young, you've done so much already. What's on the horizon for you in fitness? What are some things you see yourself doing maybe in the next 10 years?
With my full-time career being outside of fitness, I've actually found a way that the two, there's like a bridge now with fitness and my new full-time career outside of it. They kind of intertwine a little bit. I see myself staying in a full-time career outside of fitness due to financial reasons, just to support, the life that me and Anna want to live. I need to make more money. However, it doesn't change my perception on fitness at all. As a hobby, as a side passion, I think I'm able to just connect the two now. I see myself still doing more of the same, but maybe in a new consistent pattern. I say that because one gym that was really near to our hearts, Fitness Connection Cary, closed down. Things never really were the same after the pandemic anyway, but even though I had been at a bunch of different gyms, for some reason that gym was kind of the heart of my career, and a lot, of others too. And it was my consistent, steady. I see another opportunity like that happening in the future where I get plugged in for the group fitness space as, this is the gym that I teach at predominantly. And I feel like with both of us too, like we started so young. It feels like we've been doing this forever, but it also, we're kind of still just getting started. So I'm pretty hopeful that, at least for me too, I know that I haven't served my full purpose yet. That sounds kind of morbid, but I know that there's more to be done. There's more people to change. And yeah, I'm not teaching 15 classes a week anymore or anything like that. But if I can change, one person's life for the better, that makes me feel like it's all worth it.
Yeah. Well, that's probably better for your joints anyway. I can go to cracking from here.
Yeah.
You old hag.
In all of this, we wouldn't be at the point in our lives and as close as we are if it wasn't for fitness. I wouldn't have met my wife if it wasn't for fitness. If I took that fitness piece out of my life, I can't even imagine it, because so many things, even for other people, the ripples has happened because of fitness. So, I got really into it, which I think helped you get into it, and look at all the lives you've changed, and my wife Anna and Grant. There's just so many people. You never know how important something is until you've done it. It's more than just fitness, and I think if more people can realize that, they could make some, even more positive changes in people's lives.
Oh, well, thank you, Stephen. It's great to do the work with you and be inspired by you. I feel the same. I don't know what I would be without a lot of what I've encountered in the last 10 years. And a lot of that is because you helped me get into it. So I so appreciate you. And that's why I'm chatting with you here today. And I will say, y'all, this is probably one of the more emotional, serious conversations we've ever had, because we're disgusting.
I feel bad that I didn't mean for it to be this serious, because I was trying to keep it.
No, this is great. It's great stuff, because it's stuff we don't get to chat about on the regular, but it is funny because we're fucking disgusting. And so we'll have to do this again one day, maybe when to share some of those details. But damn, we're Steven's my favorite person to teach with.